Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to be comparing depreciating fixed assets using full years as well as partial period depreciation. Just to kind of get us started, we are going to go through 4 different methods: the straight line method, the double declining method, units of output method, and the sum of years digits method. Using a full year of depreciation, and then we'll use a partial period depreciation. Just to get us started, I have the formulas off here to the right. You should already be familiar with these, but I will be referencing these as we go. So we have a fixed asset here with a purchase date of January 1st, 20x1, a cost of $450,000, a residual value, also known as a salvage value, by the way, of $50,000, estimated useful life in years of 5 years, or this company also plans that they should be able to use this fixed asset to produce 2 million units. So it looks like this fixed asset is some sort of machinery. So starting with straight line, our straight line formula is cost minus residual value divided by the estimated useful life in years. Now, keep in mind that when we're taking a look at a chart such as this one, when we are evaluating depreciation expense versus accumulated depreciation, we really should have a pretty decent understanding about the differences between those two accounts. So I'm going to do a really quick review here. Depreciation expense is obviously an expense account, right? And you should already know from your introductory accounting lessons that an expense account is a temporary account that gets closed out each year. So whenever I expense depreciation, I expense it for the year and then it gets closed. And then year 2, I'm going to depreciate a little bit more, and then again it gets closed. Year 3, I'm going to depreciate a little bit more, and then it gets closed, so on and so forth. Accumulated depreciation, on the other hand, that is a contra asset account. And contra assets are permanent accounts. So again, expense accounts are temporary, they get closed. Contra assets are permanent, they do not get closed. So remember how I was just saying how this expense account is going to get closed and we start over, closed, we start over, closed, we start over, so on and so forth. This accumulated depreciation account would not get closed. And essentially, it's going to basically build on itself. Essentially, it will accumulate over time. So this balance will build and build and build. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So when you see these formulas here, essentially, when we say, hey, let's calculate the depreciation for the year, you are calculating the depreciation expense, or essentially what you are going to be adding to the accumulated depreciation balance. So let's see this in action. So our straight line formula is cost. So I'll use formulas here. So cost of $450,000. I'll cell reference that. Minus residual value. Let's grab my residual value. Okay. And I'm going to divide that by my estimated useful life in years. There you go. Now I have my full formula in, and I'm going to press enter on my keyboard. And now I have my depreciation for the year. Since this is my first year of basically using this fixed asset, I have officially accumulated $80,000 in depreciation. And now my ending book value here is going to be my magical formula. I'm going to actually put this in red. It's one of my favorite formulas. If you can have a favorite formula, cost of $450,000 minus accumulated depreciation of $80,000. There we go. So now when I get to year 2, I get to do this formula all over again. I know, how exciting. Cost minus residual value divided by estimated useful life in years. And now I have 80,000 again. However, accumulated depreciation, again, this 80,000 did not get closed because it's a contra asset. It's permanent. So that 80,000 is still sitting in that account. So I started the year with 80,000 and I just added an additional 80,000 to that account. So now it has a balance of 160,000. So now let's make sure that absorbs. So again, I started with 0 in this account at the beginning of year 2 because that 80,000 got closed because it's an expense, temporary. This one was a permanent. I started with a balance of 80. I just built on it. Now I have 160. So now when I do my ending book value, cost minus accumulated depreciation of 160. Now my new ending book value is 290. And we basically repeat the same thing over and over again. Let me go ahead and use my F4 on my keyboard to make these static so I can kind of drag this down. So every year, and this is the cool thing about straight line, the depreciation expense every year will be the same. I'm going to put a little asterisk there with some exceptions. And you'll see what I mean once we get into partial period depreciation. Technically, there is a little mini exception there if we're really being picky, right? Now with my accumulated depreciation, again, this builds. So I had 160,000 in that account. I just added 80,000 in year 3. I had 240 in that account. I added 80, so on and so forth. I'm just building on that balance. And then same idea with book value. It's always just going to be cost. Ooh, let me fix that. Make that one static. There we go. There we go. Much better. And once we get down to the very end, you should notice that your ending book value will always equal your residual value. All right. So we're feeling pretty good with straight line. Let's move on to double declining, one of our more challenging methods. So for double declining, our formula is our double declining rate times book value. We already know the book value formula, cost minus accumulated depreciation. So let's find our double declining rate. So we find our double declining rate by taking 2 and dividing it by the estimated useful life. All right, so let's do that. So 2, good, divided by estimated useful life in years, that would be 5. So essentially 2 divided by 5, that's 0.4. All right, I'm going to turn that into a percentage. So 40%. So basically, I'm going to be taking 40% of book value every year. So for year 1, I'm going to be taking 40% of book value. So let's do our book value formula. Book value is going to be cost. So cost is 450,000. And now I have to take out accumulated depreciation, except the issue here is it's year 1. I haven't depreciated anything yet. I am doing my first year of depreciation now. So technically, since I haven't depreciated anything yet, my accumulated depreciation balance is 0. I haven't depreciated anything yet. So beginning book value is equal to cost. Now my accumulated depreciation is 180, which means that my ending book value at the end of the year is now cost of 450 minus accumulated depreciation of 180. Okay. Now for year 2, 40% of book value. That does not change. But here we don't have to kind of recalculate the whole cost minus accumulated depreciation because we just did it right here. We'll update our accumulated depreciation balance. And we can update our book value balance. Let's make sure that grabbed the right numbers. Cost minus accumulated depreciation. Let's drag this down and let's check it. 40% of book value looks good. Drag down our accumulated depreciation. I like it. We're building on that balance. Very good. And same thing with book value. All right, I'm feeling pretty good with all my formulas. Let's drag this all the way down to year 5 and see how we like it. All right. Now we have a little bit of an issue here. Notice that when we take a look at year 5, we have a little bit of an issue. We depreciated past our residual value, right? We are not allowed to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a strike through. So we have that. No. Okay, there we go. We're not allowed to depreciate past residual value. I'll make that note over here. And this is where this note was so important. Our ending book value should equal residual value. So we're going to have to fix this. So let's redo year 5. All right. So if my ending book value is 58,320 and I can only depreciate to a book value of 50,000, that means that the amount that I am allowed to depreciate for the year would be the difference between these two figures. So I'm only allowed to depreciate for the year the 8,320 excess that I have there, which means that my accumulated depreciation would be those two figures added together. And now my ending book value is where it needs to be. Now my ending book value is equal to my residual value. That is okay. That is what I want it to be at. I feel much better now. All right, our next one is going to be our units of output method. You might see this one referred to the activity method, the units of production method. It has a lot of different names. And the one thing I want you to be cautious about is that it could have many different cost drivers. So in this case, the cost, the depreciation driver is based on units produced. It could be miles driven. It could be many different things that are basically the driver for basically the cost driver for depreciation, right? So just follow whatever your particular problem says. In this case, it's the units produced. So this formula here says that it's cost minus residual value divided by the estimated useful life based on the driver, that cost driver. And then we're going to multiply it by the usage during the year. I'm going to break the rules a little bit, and I'm going to do this first half first. I'm going to just do it right over here. So cost minus residual value divided by the estimated useful life based on the driver, which in this case is units produced. So that's 20 cents. And so basically what that says is we're going to depreciate this fixed asset by 20 cents for every unit produced. Okay. So that means that in year 1, when we produced 200,000 units, we're going to record depreciation expense of 40,000. And then the rest of this will work the way everything else had worked, right? So we're still going to accumulate depreciation the same way. We're still going to do book value the same way. For year 2, we produced 500,000 units. So 500,000 units times 20 cents per unit produced. We're going to depreciate 100,000. Right? Now we're just building on our depreciation. So same idea. Let's keep going all the way down. Here, I'll even drag this down and then I'll just plug and play and we'll see how it ends up. All right, let's check our ending book value. we can't really do it. Notice that we did depreciate too much, right? So we depreciated past our residual value. So we can't do that. So we're going to have to fix year 5. Keep in mind, our ending book value for the prior year was 70,000, and we cannot go past 50,000. So we are only allowed to depreciate 20,000 for year 5. So we're going to only be allowed to do that 20,000. Okay. All right, for D. D, we're going to complete the depreciation schedule using sum of the year's digits. First things first, we need to get a good understanding of this sum of the year's digits fraction. And then also a good understanding of this new term, this depreciable base. So when we're doing the sum of the year's digits fraction, the sum of the year's fraction is essentially going to say, okay, well, what is the estimated useful life? Here's my estimated useful life in years, 5 years. And what I'm going to say is, okay, the sum of my years is, if it's 5 years, 5 plus, and I go in descending order, 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. And I add up all those years. I just sum them. So that'd be 15. So like, for example, if it had a 10-year estimated useful life, I'd go 10 plus 9 plus 8 plus 7 plus 6 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. All the way down, I say 55 years. There are shorter ways to do this. There's like a little formula for it. I'm not going to go over it in this video because honestly, I don't remember off the top of my head. I know, bad me. I should remember it off the top of my head, but I don't. That's my bad. But now I feel bad. Let me go grab the formula. I'll be right back. All right, I grabbed the formula. I have sufficiently guilted myself. All right, so if you don't feel like doing the extended version, I think I had 10 here, right? So 10's a little lengthy. I mean, I guess it isn't too bad if we did this. Not too much of a time waster, right? So that came out to like 55, right? If we plug this into this particular formula, we would do 10 times 10 plus 1, and then we would divide that by 2. So 110 divided by 2 also gives you that 55, which might not seem like a lot if you're using an asset with a 10-year useful life, but it's kind of like for those scenarios where you would say, oh, it's an asset with a 40-year useful life. So if you said, oh, it's 40 years, you don't want to be going 40 plus 39 plus 38 plus 37. That would take up a lot of time on your assessment. So that's where you would say, well, I'd rather just do this little cheat formula. So n plus 1, multiply it by n, and then divide that result by 2. So in that case, it would be 820. So why is this important? This result essentially is going to become your denominator, right? So in our case, our estimated useful life is 5. So 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, or 5 plus 1, 6, times 5, 30, divided by 2, 15. That's going to be our denominator for every year. And then in our numerator for each year, it's going to be the years remaining plus 1, right? So essentially for year 1, our numerator is going to be, there's 4 years remaining, plus 1, that's 5, divided by 15. So essentially for year 1, 5/15. For year 2, 4/15. For year 3, 3/15. So on and so forth until you get down to 1/15. And you're going to multiply that fraction by your depreciable base, which is simply cost minus residual value. So in our case, our depreciable base is going to be cost of 450,000 minus residual value of 50,000, 400,000. So let's try year 1 together. So our numerator, we have 4 years left plus 1, so that's 5. The sum of our years is 15. And we're going to multiply that by our depreciable base of 400,000. For year 2, 4/15 times 400,000. For year 3, 3/15 times 400,000. For year 4, 2/15 times 400,000. And 1/15 of 400,000. And then, as always, the rest of it works the way all of the others work. And that's really it for some of the year's digits. If you are in an intro class, you probably aren't going to be learning some of the year's digits. Usually this is a method that is learned by more junior or senior level accounting classes. Okay. All right. Now let's go ahead and move into more advanced topics. I'm actually probably going to cut this here, and then in a separate video, I'm going to go into, well, what happens if we didn't purchase this piece of machinery on January 1st? What happens if it was partway through the year? So we're going to do it with a November 30th purchase. So I'll cut that here, and we will get started in the next video. Happy studying.